So we don't have representation from HPD today, although we continue to be in conversations with them about further engaging with the community. So we have some information that we've gotten in our conversations with the agencies recently that I'd like to pass along here, and we'll continue to work with them on providing more information as we go. It's an evolving situation. Right now, as a reminder for folks, there's a couple of agencies that are primarily involved from the city and the state. On the city side, it's of course the Department of Buildings, which has the authority to inspect buildings for safety and issue emergency demolition orders. And then of course, we have HPD, which is responsible for carrying out the demolition. We also have a state agency that is involved in this, the Department of Environmental Conservation, which has the responsibility to investigate potential contamination and enforce remediation requirements as this evolves. There may be more as we go or not, but these are the agencies that are actively working on this and have the responsibility for the demolition. We are engaged with each of these agencies, particularly HPD and DEC, who are the ones actively working on the site. As part of that, we know that board members and the community have been voicing concerns and questions. We also have been elevating that with the agencies and elected officials, and hopes of getting additional meaningful information out. As a reminder, since the last operations committee, there has been a transition in the city. We have a new mayor, we have a new HPD commissioner, who's a few weeks in, but we have been able to engage with the new leadership at HPD. I've met with the commissioner, and they have provided some information very recently, in part because of the questions they have received. I also think in part because of our engagement with them. One of the examples is this memo that they emailed out to their demolition contact list, which is also available here if you don't have it. I encourage you to take a copy and take a look if that provides some additional information on their approach to the project. No problem. There is more information here, which is good. We recognize that there's a desire for more information, and even with this information, we still encourage people to continue to contact HPD with their questions using the ridemolition@hpd.nyc.gov email that they set up. And of course, feel free to copy us and keep us in the loop as well. Next slide. The other piece of new information from the city that we have is a new 8-week look-ahead schedule. They had provided one initially at the last operations committee meeting that we had in December, I believe. So we had not gotten new information on schedule until just recently, but they provided this to us, I believe, actually this week. So this gives, we also have it, thank you. We also have this available here, but you can see on the line, this goes through March 20th. I would say that the oil tank removal, which has been underway as part of their original look-ahead schedule that they gave us in September, the visible work that is happening is the site protection work for the most part. The sheds being installed and the shed and scaffolding that will be installed, you can see in the schedule, starting in March, will be visible soon, according to this schedule. We did ask them for, so it looks like actual demolition work itself will not happen yet as part of this 8-week schedule. There's still site preparation and means and methods. There's 6 categories here. We asked HPD for definitions of the key tasks. So Mary, if you flip to the next slide, these are some of the key activities that are happening. The oil tank removal and backfill line item involves the excavation, I need more candy, to expose underground oil tanks and more, and to remove and dispose them. The shed installation is in a number of areas around the perimeter and will extend, for example, over the tramway, and building make-ready work, other activities to remove obstructions. This relates to potential asbestos abatement within the structure. Just as a note on some other relevant activities, DOB was out and verified that all on-site permits are compliant and posted where they need to be. DEC also has now been working closely with HPD as it relates to remediation. I've been in touch with the regional leadership at DEC this week on this topic, and I will say again that the leadership both at HPD and at DEC is paying attention to this. The news I have from DEC, which is I just received today prior to coming to this meeting, is that they have inspected the site and did observe an oil sheen. They notified HPD and excavation work has been paused while it's investigated further. Note that this may be from a historical occurrence. We don't have more information from them yet, but HPD and DEC are working closely together on this and the necessary remediation as a result of this. And so I hope and expect that we'll have more information on that soon. But that is the news that I have pertaining to the demolition, and I'll keep the committee and we'll keep the community apprised of what we learn and any new information that we can share along the way.
So, one question. I wanted to thank Laura for sending the pictures.
Yes.
I really
Oh, yes.
appreciate the pictures that you sent. And so, thank you so much for sending the pictures. They're really
Oh, you're welcome.
So, if you wouldn't mind, can we take a look at the pictures?
Sorry.
So since you took the pictures, can you just briefly explain what the pictures are of? Can you look at
They did in March.
Okay, okay. Did you take this off the balcony of Sports Park, or did you take it?
So there are several pictures. Some of them are taken from Queensboro Bridge, passing by the tram above, and others are taken just with camera sticks above the fence. And actually this one, I don't know how visible it is, but there are other pictures, maybe we can show them too, on which you can clearly see the exposed oil tanks, the contaminated soil around them. This picture specifically, one of the questions we have is, this is a pile of snow and soil right next to the gate, on the outside of the construction gate. And when you look inside, the concrete pad inside of the construction is really clean. It seems like the guys cleaned very well, which is good. But is this soil clean soil or is contaminated soil? At the moment it's on the outside of the construction. And the snow is melting, and this soil will go all the way on the street and in the soccer field. So maybe we can look on another picture. I have comments about that. So you can see the color of the snow. This is right next to the fence. If you move down a little bit, it's not white, it's almost black. It's the color of the soil excavation. So again, looking at these pictures, and on the side, I was not able to see any active air monitoring at the moment. I was not able to see any protection during the excavation itself. Yes, there is a pile of most likely contaminated soil at the other side of the excavation, but during the day and during the night when they work, everything is exposed to the wind. So we're really concerned that this dust is going inside in the sport park, and most likely it's going in the tennis courts because they are air supported structure. They're pumping 24/7 compressed air inside in the tennis court, and on one of the next pictures you can see the HVAC equipment for the tennis court is right next to the site. So how do we know that the air in the tennis court is safe? How do we know that what's happening there, the construction and the remediation, is really as per requirements, and our kids are safe and we're safe? And so maybe we can look at the next picture. Yeah, so you can see, so this picture is, each one of them has the date. So this is right on the day after DEC visited the job site. And they visited the job site not because the demolition contractor or HPG or anyone else notified DEC. DEC was not aware, according to their manager that I spoke again today. They were not aware about this work happening. So they found, because of concerned citizens' complaints, that there is oil excavation work going on without any permits posted on the outside. So, and during their first visit, they discovered the oil spill, and you can see the trucks, they're pumping out, most likely, the actual spill. So, how do we know what's happened? This is just a portion of the tanks. Some of them have been already remediated. How do we know what's happened there? Are they remediated properly? Have we missed other spills? So, can we get independent third-party testing? Can we see the results of the actual testing that was performed so far? Can we have the work postponed? By the way, I just listened to your update. Thank you for this. You mentioned that DEC told you that they have requested stop of the work. Maybe they did this today, but I have pictures from today, and the site looks totally different than from this condition. Seems like the work was continuing. Maybe they stopped now, I don't know. So we're really concerned. We need RIOC help for taking care of the community. We needed to be actively involved and actively to communicate with us what's going on. And
It seems like the agencies are really stonewalling us. It took more than 2 months to get any type of communication in response to our questions. And we just started receiving communication a couple of days ago, and most of it is really generic. I received the response from Gilby today. I questioned the emergency demolition order, and I received completely boilerplate response with no new information. So this situation of no information makes everybody very anxious. We have 500 signatures on the petition already, and people are uncomfortable and anxious, and we all have families here, children with chronic conditions. This type of buildings, this building is built in 1934 and extended in the 50s, and usually the list of the contaminants inside such a building, such a structure, is more than scary. We're not just talking about asbestos and lead, but also mercury and forever chemicals and every other toxin that you can imagine. Scariest of them, we just want to know that when we pass by with our kids, we are safe. And why is it so difficult to pause a demolition that has been delayed for 2 years already? The initial emergency order was from middle of 2024. Why is it so difficult to pause it for 2, 3, 4 weeks? Why are these people in so much hurry? This all creates so much suspicion, so much anxiety. Is it really necessary? I think RIOC can be instrumental here in helping us put this whole process on track, make it transparent. I see that you have access to the commissioner, whereas we don't. And I think we need to talk to HPD commissioner. There are very, very serious questions. So, can we schedule a meeting?
I can ask.
Yeah, we certainly need to do this. During these 2 months that we didn't get any piece of information, we did as much research as possible online. I myself am a registered architect, so I have a little bit of experience with the city systems. It seems like the steam plant was maintained until 2020, and then Honorable Mayor Adams came to town, and HPD stopped maintaining the building. So I don't understand the word emergency in relation to this building, because there was no emergency. There was no storm, there was no earthquake. There was nothing unexpected happening to this building. It's just HPD at some point stopped maintaining the building, and that was a conscious decision. And because this building belongs to us, to the taxpayer, can we get a simple explanation? Why do they want to demolish the building? Obviously, this is a deliberate policy, not an emergency. But pay attention, when you declare emergency, structural emergency, you can skip important environmental procedures that protect our children from being poisoned during a demolition process. And so why is this emergency declared when there is no structural report to back it up? Nothing unexpected happened. Is it because somebody wanted to demolish the building quickly and cowboy style without environmental measures? These are the kind of questions that pass through our heads as parents. Looking at the demolition site, and we are not getting answers. More than 2 months already. Help us, because this obviously these people are not going to stop the demolition. We're talking about $7.5 million cost.
Who's paying for that?
No, we haven't been getting any answers either.
This is my thing. Who's paying for this demolition, and why is it, like she said, why is it necessary? where is it falling apart? It's just like, you go in the back, you have the smallpox ruins, nobody's touched that, nobody's moved that. That's still there, right? So, the thing is, that structure that's there, the steam plant, I'm trying to understand and wrap my head around the fact that all of a sudden became an emergency, and no one in the community, with the exception of a few of us, are looking and checking and trying to find out what's going on. But a lot of people that live in this community, especially the people that live closer to the steam plant in the Southtown area of Roosevelt Island, are going to be affected. And they are very unaware of what's going on, as we are, just unaware. And all this money is going into the destruction when the building itself can be repurposed, you know, or made into something that can generate some type of money. But that's not what's happening. It's just being torn down, destroyed. And it's one of the artifacts that's a part of this island, just like the smallpox ruins and other things that are just being removed hastily without any discussion with the 14,000 residents that live on this island. Everything is being done in secrecy, so it seems. And like she said, we just want and need answers.
Well, hopefully we're gonna get more answers now, because up until now, it's just now that you've been able to, with the new administration.
Yeah.
I mean, with this short time, we're getting answers, so, hopefully, Mr. Jones would be able to lead us.
I will try. I did reiterate this week with HPD about the questions, including those about why the emergency demolition was ordered, and they said they were, that they would work on getting more information in that regard.
Just procedurally, it seems like if HPD, as an owner of the building, requests a pause from DOB and time to repair the building instead of demolish, they can be granted pause and the building can be saved. It's not unusual, it's completely possible. And then if we save the building, there are so many paths, you know, that are beneficial for all the stakeholders. You can have a research on the island, what's needed. You can hire appropriate urban design and architectural firms to do survey and to research possible programs that can also bring income and bridge some gaps in the budget, in RIOC's budget. And in the same time, we can avoid all this contamination, toxicity, and also a process that is quite untransparent.
My main concern is the current exposure to contaminants that we have now. And so what I want to propose is getting RIOC to have air quality monitoring now, or as soon as possible, around the structure, not on that particular land, but around, because we know all the kids in Marlins, they walk to the sports park, and they're passing by there every day. I know I go there every day. I know that people are walking, you know, even during the deep freeze, maybe contaminants don't move as quickly through the air during the 10-degree weather that we had last, 5-degree weather we had last week. But still, there are contaminants in the air, and we need to know. We have the responsibility, we have the fiduciary responsibility to our residents to find out what's going on, for our residents to make sure that our kids aren't being poisoned. The adults aren't being poisoned, all of us are being poisoned. The tourists aren't being, the senior citizens that are still walking around, you know?
Yeah.
So, is that possible, Mary, to get
Well,
air
before,
quality monitoring?
and if, I would just say, sorry, Mary, to interrupt, but I would say that looking into air quality as also someone who spends every work day,
You're right
by
there.
by the
You're
Steam
right
Plant
there.
site,
You're right there.
is important and absolutely worth looking into. That's one of the questions that I'm waiting to hear back from DEC on, because this is, I believe, in their purview, and so I want to see, based on what they're doing over the next few days, what that may lead to in terms of air quality, and that if it turns out that there's something else that should be done, then we should definitely explore that.
Yeah,
But there is a possibility that this might actually fall within DEC's approach to
If it
the
falls
work.
within that, in their purview, and we started, can we just bill them for it?
Well, that's why I want to see if they're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's always hard.
Or compel HPD and the contractor to do it, or whatever the outcome is. So I think that's an important question that we have raised, and hopefully we'll have more
Because I
information
see
soon.
from the schedule that phase 2, they're gonna be doing continuous air quality monitoring, but I don't see it in.
Right now, right.
Yeah, right
right,
now,
Right.
and I don't know what's happening. You
Yeah.
can't see it by, I don't see any monitoring at all.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that there are.
Nothing, nada.
Yeah.
So every single picture I looked at, I didn't see anything. Did you
Yeah.
see anything? Did you guys see anything?
And
Nothing.
maybe if we can switch to some of the next pictures, there is particular one from Queensboro Bridge. This is the pile of contaminated soil that's covered, most likely. But let's switch to a next one. I just want you to see the location of the,
This one?
so this one. So if you look to the left, where is the tennis bubble? Right in front this black spot is the HVAC equipment of the tennis bubble. Talking about urgency.
Don't
I'm
send your
afra-
children to.
I'm afraid
play
to enter into this tennis court bubble. I know what's inside in the last 2 months. We need urgently, DC involvement is great, but we need a third party, independent air monitoring that's real time, that everyone in the community can see, weekly report. And what's really surprising is that way back in 2013 and 2014, when the demolition of the Goldwell Hospital was going on, this was happening. POW Environmental was involved, if I remember correctly, looking on some articles in Roosevelt Island, and they were sharing information and they were keeping the community involved. So if it was possible then, why we can do it now, 2026?
To add to that, I think Mr. Jones mentioned the possibility of having HPD and the contractor themselves doing the monitoring. I think they've already demonstrated they are completely untrustworthy. The fact that they've already started doing this without any monitoring when they are obligated to do so indicates that even if we force them to do it, there is no guarantee that they are going to do it either competently or purposefully in a correct manner. They might very well only do the minimum that they could possibly legally be required to do so, and that will not be sufficient to actually to actually monitor everything carefully and provide proper protection to the community. I'd also like to mention that this isn't just a question of poisons. These dangerous materials, depending on which ones are found, which again, we don't know what they're finding in there because they're not doing any testing, or if they have done testing, they're not letting us know. They can also involve elements that are carcinogenic and teratogenic. That means that the potential negative impacts on this community won't just be within our generation, but could potentially be several generations down the road and have impact on children that are not yet born. This is exceptionally problematic, and I don't think that we can allow a private group such as these contractors to effectively self-police.
There's a pipeline from the old pier where they used to unload the barges of fuel that goes from the old pier, which is, to say the least, falling
Across
apart.
the,
Under, and then up, so there's a whole pipeline leading, not just to the tanks lead into, but there's a whole pipeline that they're gonna have to tear up the road to get rid of if they could demolish or just leave the pipeline there. But even on their property, there are probably lots of pipelines that they're not discussing, they're just discussing tanks. But all the oil had to get there, and there had to be pipelines, so that's another thing to consider. They're just pulling out tanks now, but what about all the infrastructure around the tanks that led into the building? You know, I've been watching them deliver 4 or 5 barge loads of fuel every single day until yesterday and today. They probably went back to natural gas. The amount of fuel that's been consumed across the river is amazing, and how much fuel has been consumed and piped in on from that old pier for many years, and and trucked in. It's ridiculous. It has to be. The whole site is contaminated, not just where those tanks are. The entire site has to be deemed contaminated.
Yes. Do you have anyone else? Any other comments?
Yeah, so usually environmental impact statements are required before demolition of a building like this could be done. And I'm not aware of any environmental impact statement that was done for this. Is RIOC aware of any kind of environmental impact statement?
I'm not, but I also believe that's because this is stemming from an emergency order.
So follow-up
Yeah.
question on this. Do you know the name of the environmental protection company specializing in environmental remediation that's already involved on this project? Is there one or only the demolition company?
I don't know, and I will learn more based on DEC's involvement in this.
I'm just wondering if RIOC's legal staff could look into whether or not the environmental impact review is required, notwithstanding the claim of an emergency, since the emergency is almost 2 years old. I'm not quite sure how much of an emergency it is. And, the residents really don't have the ability, or I don't know if they do or not, but to hire, legal counsel, but RIOC has an in-house legal staff that might be able to influence this somehow.
Joel Kupferman, I'm an environmental justice attorney.
Oh.
Came from the other island called Manhattan.
The other islands.
I'm very familiar with demolitions. We're the lawyers that not only litigated over the World Trade Center, we're the ones that got down there and picked up the samples and had it tested. They got all that information out. The city, the state, and the feds for a year told everyone that it's safe, even with all those records that they had there. I'm dealing now with demolition at Reese houses. It's a brownfield site. There's people living there. They're taking the pipes up. There's asbestos in the pipes. They're not stopping people being exposed. DEC is not your panacea in terms of stopping. First of all, even when they monitor, they use something called PM10, which is the larger particles. They're not testing for PM2.5. And the worst thing is, it took me years of doing these cases, and we got monitoring, and we realized the monitoring in some ways is just a palate. Because when there is something bad that happens, they're just gonna say it was another emergency. They use the emergency bit, and there's gonna be no more testing, or they're gonna say, even the contractor's gonna almost like say, sue me or fine me, all right? Just a little side note, the cities owe $2.1 billion in uncollected fines, not all environmental work. So even they go through this motion that they catch the contractor doing bad work, they give them a fine, they're not even paying it, or in some cases paying it. So it's monitoring is totally a mixed bag, because they're telling you doing all this stuff, but there's no enforcement. We have whistleblowers coming to us from different agencies, and they tell us they know that it's bad, and then we would ask for a stop work order, or when there's an exceedance, when they do air monitoring, there's an exceedance, and then they end up sending to fix the problem in 10 minutes. We just can't understand how. We work on a lot of NYCHA housing, so we're very familiar with bad demolitions and bad reconstruction. We put the monitor away from the buildings where it's monitored. They were cutting into the building. There was concrete dust going into an apartment where there were 2 asthmatic people, and NYCHA didn't even do anything about those contractors. So there's a lockstep with a lot of the environmental firms. They hire environmental firms and engineering firms that don't see anything, all right? They also, the reports that we get, the actual live data shows danger. The executive order, almost written in a different font, that says it's minimal. That's the buzzword. So I think over here you have almost a perfect storm, I've dealt with Con Ed in many places. We got hired by the firefighters union. We got to know them over 9/11. We're the ones who told them what was bad in their trucks and the firehouses. Most of the, we don't want to besmirch anybody, but most of the fire chiefs are scared to go into a Con Ed building for lack of proper reporting of what's at a site. That's not even a demolition. So the fact that they got the emergency order really raises the question, if it's an emergency order, there should be more protection. There should be monitors on the whole island, right? They're doing less. So that just, begs the question. But you really, there's gotta be independent people coming in, but also we have to make sure that DEC, the Department of Buildings, including HPD, we fought them, backwards and forwards, and there's good people in that unit. That's not the whole bit. But when there's a push to do something, they're gonna do it, and if there's a building collapse, we dealt with building collapse just 2 months ago in the Bronx. The chimney went, and the investigation is still lingering. The good people we know that's supposed to be investigating are kept away. So I don't wanna give you, walk away with negative feelings, but you really have to protect every bit of air, that's air.
Yes.
And if something happens, they're gonna say it was an accident or whatever. There's a history that's here, the legacy, was on the island. You mentioned the barges coming and going.
Yeah.
This PCBs, the Steam Plant is just bad news, all right? We're not even talking about, this PFAS and everything else that's there. But the upsetting thing is, they don't stop the bad activity. There'll be a report and they'll just say it's there. And DEC, we have to actually drag them sometimes, and I just gotta say, and maybe one of the few people that challenge them all the time. And we learned that they just discovered the oil spill.
Yep, so do they, so
So it's like after the fact, they call in for something and then they're gonna, the security guy goes, oh, did you notice that the vault door is open and there's nothing left in the vault? It's really, it's scary. And there's a lot of, I wouldn't wanna say, we call them apologists, whatever, there's a lot of engineering firms that are gonna come in and sit down and give you sheet after sheet after sheet, of showing you stuff. It's being, I think they revealed their cartery, that there's not, it's not rocket science, it's almost, and after speaking to judges after cases, they really intend to do this, but they just want to get this done and placate people, and give you a lot of spreadsheets. The graphics people make a lot of good money, but I would really, be concerned that's there, and it's like, make them eat their words. It's an emergency, then, what's the emergency? We're concerned about structural damage that's coming down, and this stuff travels. They also tell you that it doesn't travel anywhere. We've had cases, brownfields, that the trucks leave, and it was a substation, a Con Ed substation for the subway system. They said they did one test for asbestos. We researched, like across the country, we have experts that get involved with every case. The bricks, the ground in the bricks back then in the 30s used asbestos in the ground, there's asbestos in the bricks. So not only did they take down the bricks, their bulldozers were going over it and just, you could see the dust coming up. Then we asked to mediate it, they're gonna tell you that there's certain things to mitigate it. They took water, a little hose, and I don't wanna be profane, but it's like a mosquito peeing on the elephant. But they used enough water to cause the water to run down into the pathways, into the sidewalk, and people were walking through it. So a lot of times, they'll give you piecemeal mitigation, and it's worse. In some ways, they make it worse. We're dealing with with the Legionnaires' deaths in Harlem, and it's not just the water, a lot of our research shows it's not just the cooling towers, which you should be concerned here. It's also a little scary that 8 of the 11 places that caused the problem was city-owned. One being Harlem Hospital, and the other being CUNY Science Building. So it's like we have doubts, a little bit of, we call it healthy skepticism of all these agencies. The Legionella is not just coming from cooling towers, it's coming from any construction and demolition. So the fact that they didn't even mention that there's things that this stuff generates. We have places where, in Reef houses, right south of the Con Ed plant, there's a lot of steam pipes that are there. We kept on saying, you're doing this, DEC is measuring outside We put air monitors into people's apartment, the dust was going into their apartments. DEC came back and said, our engineering firm is finding nothing. They're using, just testing for the larger particles. They would say there's something intervening called the building, people's windows, and people's lungs. People were getting sick and choking on it, and DEC said, no problem, here's another report. Why I just made this up, is that those pipes have asbestos in it. We got called out of the Union Turnpike, a group called us, I sent my interns. They were concerned that there might have been asbestos, they're doing a sloppy job. They only put one asbestos sign, and there should be signage all over. And one of the people actually heard Con Ed say, we know there's asbestos there, we don't wanna rile people up. We just wanna say we've heard that in many, many cases from the inside. We tested some of the shard of the pipe. We came up with 7.3% chrysotile asbestos. 1% is the cutoff point. They didn't really do anything afterwards, and this is like blocks and blocks. So we called in the city health department, the state health department, DEC. Like there was not one big. So you can give equal time to the other side, but I think you have some parties that have a little bit of an unpure history, in case.
My worry is getting them to do something. I mean, we can come up with we can also test, which I think we should do personally, because I live here on this island and I have an asthmatic and I'm asthmatic. And I was listening to my granddaughter coughing tonight and I wasn't very happy about that either, because she's been doing well up until now. I'm beginning to see a little difference here. So it's not that this board is very concerned. I'm just unhappy with our results. We have really not been able to get very much from them at all. They have really, I have to tell you, they have really been working hard. They have really tried contacting everyone. Up until now, this is the first time that we haven't had lots of results. And
Have to keep at it.
yeah.
I wanted to make sure that now that communication is open, we're discussing the steam tunnels. We know
Yes.
that that's an actual emergency.
Yes.
And so if they're there, they're digging, if there's a concern,
Yeah.
obviously that's going to actually worsen. So if we can get information, something in writing, especially about the steam tunnels, that would be great.
But does RIOC as a quasi-governmental authority have any power to either delay or stop the actual demolition of the steam plant?
I don't believe so. This is a city order and it has to be performed by a city agency. At the state level where there is some authority to deal with this is where the DEC comes into play. But these are entities that do not report to us.
Can RIOC be an advocate to whatever entities do have the power to do this, to at least explore the possibility?
And that's what we've endeavored to do in talking and trying to establish more regular communication with these agencies to get to not just make sure that they're paying attention to the questions and concerns that have come in, but to get more information from them for the community, but also for us. So.
But can you also explicitly request these authorities, HPD or DOB or any other, to stop the demolition right now, and then discuss and share all the information, make sure the community is aware of what's going on, and there is a plan for safe decontamination. Because from what we understand so far, you are not aware of any environmental company involved. No one is aware. We don't know what's going on. We know that there are contaminants, that's for sure. I don't think we have time to wait to establish communication, and 2 months later, the work is going on. It's urgent. DEC today told us that they will continue communicating only with RIOC.
Exactly.
There were Mr. Santos' words on the phone today where We will continue talking with RIOC. If you are a member of the board, you're more than welcome to join these meetings. There will be the one, we can talk to anybody, to everybody, which we understand, but we need you to step up and request a stop. You don't have the authority to stop the work, but you can request this emergency stop. This is the real emergency, to stop the demolition, not the demolition itself.
You have access to these people, whereas we are being ignored for more than 2 months. And yes, we can hire a lawyer and go to court, but this is one procedure. We just want to be safe. We don't want to be in a battle.
Yeah.
And you can help us.
Yeah.
The way I understand the situation is HPD commissioner can take a step and pause the demolition. You don't have to decommission completely the contractor. Whatever preparation is done so far can be used, site safety, sidewalk fence, other DMO preparations, can be actually used, and work can be switched from demolition to repairs. It's not so difficult to do. I'm saying this as an architect. HPD commissioner has the power to pause. DOB commissioner also has the power to pause. So if the RIOC board decides to pass a resolution and reach out to both commissioners, we will back you. We have 500 people right now behind us, and the number is growing with 100 people per week. In a couple of weeks, it's gonna be above 1,000. So we'll back you, and together we can do something good for this island. And what it's gonna also do is establish good trust between the residents and RIOC at a moment when a new planning process for the island is starting, and we need this. We don't want to go through this process with lack of trust, lack of understanding for each other.
I understand.
So this is the moment to show us that you really care for us and that you want to help us. Go for it, and we'll back you.
And possibly,
The new commissioner of HPD comes from the state. It's like, don't you guys know each other from the past, or?
We have crossed paths, but in the
because,
past,
you
yes.
can make her feel guilty, she comes
Right.
from us. She comes from
Again, I
state.
will say, she has been in this new position for just a few weeks. And I will say that it's encouraging to me, based on my just recent conversation with her, that she has been briefed on this and is aware of it. Did push to get the information that has come out just very recently out, and is looking at what other information can be shared, so that and she definitely, safety is top of mind.
So she's aware of this, but she hasn't actually ordered a stop.
She hasn't ordered, no,
and what
I
is
see.
what
That's
is
not
the
very helpful.
governor's stand on this?
I'm sorry,
What is the governor's stand on this?
I don't know.
Okay, you have a hand up over here, just wanted to let you know.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, could you, what do we do to hear him?
I think you can just talk.
Okay,
I can hear
yes,
myself if you all can hear me.
yes, we
Yes.
see your
Yes.
hand, please.
Hi there.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you all for taking us a moment to let me speak. I really appreciate everyone's presence in this meeting on this very important topic. A couple comments just to say. One, I want to echo what my fellow residents have said. I think particularly what Zora and Kaylin have mentioned, but other people too, some I don't know. But I think they really reflect the tone and the concerns of a broad number of people, those on this call who may not be speaking, and those who can't or are unable to attend. So these are really valid points, and I, of course, want to repeat them. I want to emphasize a few points that I think came up just recently that we really appreciate, but depend on you all as the RIOC board and governance to be leaders in this. And I think one example that Kaylin already mentioned, but I want to repeat briefly, is the fact that DEC is not going to communicate with us. We can be our citizen advocates and reaching out to our elected officials, but there are already examples, and that's just one, we're out of the process, and we need you guys to be stepping up the meeting, and of course, you're working hard, I don't want to imply anything but in this issue that's so important, you guys have talked through in almost an hour the complexity of this, but almost every point brought up is one of concern and the need to learn more, and nothing's giving green lights and encouragement, I think, at least to me, I think most of us as residents. I mean, there are risks now, you know, we've discussed this idea that there's an emergency order, but seemingly all the reality, the data and so forth is saying there are risks happening already now, but no convincing benefits from the demolition. And I think in light of that, well, I appreciate Rick's comment and some of the initial answers. I just want to, as a respectful resident, reiterate that, to my mind, the only necessary step right now is the pause of the demolition. Not to say the long-term outcome is known, but there is more information, there's more protection, and every day or week that kind of goes by in a more inevitable, drawn-out bureaucratic process is not just even the risk of harm, it's likely some degree of harm. And so I'm going to echo a little bit of respectful force here. What can RIOC be doing right now to be assisting in respectfully, but leading to the pause of this demolition? So yeah, thank you for your efforts and for taking a moment to listen to my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So,
Hello,
Howard.
you hear me?
Howard. Yes, Howard.
Yes. I think we definitely need to have clarity on the nature of the emergency order, but I'm wondering if we can separate the stabilization and remediation with regard to the smokestacks as distinct from the interior of the building. I know that they've already started on the oil field, and that has its own problems. But I thought that the stacks themselves might be the most pressing issue. If you look at them, they're cracked, they're positioned to do damage, and if there's a way of separating dealing with the smokestacks from dealing with the building, maybe on a slower track, that might be useful.
By the way, the way the process is described, there will be a scaffold around the smokestacks anyway, and RCRI had some preliminary conversation with smokestack maintenance contractors. Unofficially, preliminary estimate, the smokestacks can be repaired for a fraction of the 7.5 million. Smokestacks can be repaired, cracks can be taken care of, they can be stabilized, they can stay as a landmark on the island for a fraction of the money for the demolition. So explain to us, why do we have to spend 7.5 million? The scaffold that's planned for around, you know, all the protection and all the scaffold can be just used for the smokestacks to be repaired. There will be people out there, you know, protection. Instead of taking down the smokestacks one brick at a time, let's repair them.
Right, we've talked about like the domino sugar building, right?
Right.
What's
It's the same
happening
as
with
maintain.
that
What is your
landmark
name?
I worked on that case.
All right.
Yeah, and we found lead, we found PCBs on windows like 4 or 5 blocks away, and some of the landlords did a strong pressure not to have that revealed. So it's, you know. And that was like 3 agencies that we brought it to when they did very little.
Okay, yeah.
Going back a moment ago, Mr. Jones, you mentioned you had spoken actually to the commissioner directly?
Yes.
Yeah, and she was behind this additional information that's been released just now, yes?
Yeah, this all came from this current
So,
administration.
I'd just like to ask, is there any reason why said commissioner has refused to call a temporary stop order? As far as I understand, there's no other jurisdiction that's getting in the way of her ability to do so, yes? So given that you're directly communicating with her, perhaps you'd be able to shed some light on this? Perhaps you'd be able to ask her that question? Because I feel like that's probably that's the most urgent issue here. Allowing us to have this additional information is frankly not particularly helpful. People are still still having these toxins in their environment. So if you could please ask them precisely what their excuse is for not solving this immediately.
Yeah, I'll include that in my continued follow-up with them.
Thank you.
And when you talk to the new DOB Commissioner Tigani, can we clarify, is there any structural report at all on the building? There are many architects, structural engineers on the island. We would love to look at it. Because if emergency order is called without any actual report, that might be violation of DOB internal own rules, and the reason in itself for the emergency order to be called off.
Having heard from the residents who have said that they would allow a board member to participate in your next meeting, I would like to be a board
I'll
member
keep you
in that
posted on
meeting. Thank you.
the opportunity to do that for sure.
Okay, well, let us, we should